Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And two, Big 12 week continues today. Of course, we have the live show coming up at 3 o'clock today. So if you disagree with any of this stuff I'm saying about the Big 12 this week, feel free to call in. Tell me why I'm wrong. That's 3 o'clock Eastern this afternoon. But this is video 3 of Big 12 week. And we're going to get right into the video here in a second. And someone left a comment yesterday that Uncle Lou's intros were a little bit too long. Yeah, point taken, sir. And I will try to do better in the future for you. So, without any further ado, though, let's get to the third video, Big 12 week. Let's go.
Don't have a heart attack, Luke. Don't stroke out, Luke. You're gonna get so mad your head's gonna pop off and explode, Luke.
Even if my head popped off and exploded, don't you think I'd still be mad? There, see? Still standing here saying, screw the Voltards!
Okay, now today's topic is probably the second most asked question I see in the comment section on LouTube as it pertains to the Big 12 and the comments I get about it year-round. Expansion. Is the Big 12 going to expand? If they expand, which teams would they look at? Do they need to go to 12 teams? Do they need to possibly even go to 14 teams to get to where the SEC and the ACC and Big 10 are? What's the plan? Are they going to expand? Are they happy with the 10 team? What are they going to do? What's the plan? Well, the simple answer, at least for the short term in terms of expansion, is no, they're not going to expand. And this is partly due to their own incompetence. I don't know how much you guys remember from a couple of years ago when expansion talk was going on within the Big 12, and they completely screwed the pooch on their expansion extravaganza or whatever it is they were trying to do. It was like a... You know what the Big 12 expansion search or whatever it was they did a few years back? You know what it was like? It was like a reality game show, like it was like American Idol or America's Got Talent or The Bachelor even. It was like one of those shows, except there were no winners, right? No one won. I mean, no one won. I mean, the Big 12, the teams, the schools they already have were stabbing each other in the back. These teams refused to vote for other teams unless these teams would vote for these teams. Texas said they're not voting for anybody unless the University of Houston gets in. Some of the teams in the Big 12 and the Big 12 office in particular wanted BYU in the Big 12, but of course BYU is filled with a bunch of homophobic bigots for ignorant, backwoods, centuries-old, pointless, and outdated religious reasons. So some member institutions in the Big 12, to their credit, stood up and said, no, we're not voting for a back-ass, backwoods, back-bottom school like BYU to come into the Big 12 when they openly discriminate against homosexuality. It's against the code of conduct at BYU to be gay. Yeah, welcome to Sharia law in America, live and in living color in Provo, Utah, or wherever the hell Brigham Young, wherever the hell BYU is. So hats off to the Big 12 for that, for at least putting human decency and morality ahead of your desire to expand by adding the powerhouse known as BYU. Hats off to you for that. But this whole process was a giant cluster, you know what. You had interviews scheduled with 11 or 12 different schools. Half the presidents from the member institutions of the Big 12 didn't even show up to interview these other 12 schools when it was planned. Some of these schools that were on the list, Central Florida, South Florida, Cincinnati, BYU, I mentioned. And so basically what ended up happening is nothing happened. In the Big 12, the way their bylaws are set up, 8 of the 10 current member institutions have to vote to approve any team that's added, and not a single school could get 8 yes votes from the 10 member institutions within the Big 12, so they remain stuck at the 10 teams. So the short answer to the question, no, they're not expanding anytime in the near future, because what happened to them a couple of years ago was such a national embarrassment. I mean, they really were a laughing stock of college football there for about a year or a year and a half, just the way they completely bumbled that whole expansion search that they tried to put on there in the Big 12. Now, the better question, and maybe the harder question to answer, is, do they really need to expand? No, they don't. They have been successful in getting the NCAA to allow them to play a conference championship game, even though they only have 10 teams. Originally, you had to have 12 teams within your conference in order to hold a conference championship game, and this is why, of course, the Big 12 didn't hold a conference championship game for a couple of years. They appealed or requested a special release or whatever they had to do from the NCAA, and so they are able to hold a conference championship game, which I think is important in terms of getting into the college football playoff. And of course, the Big 12 has actually gotten into the college football playoff a couple of times. Most recently was, let's see, when was the most recent one? Oh, yeah, that's right, the Rose Bowl this past year. So I don't think they necessarily need to expand in terms of playoff implications. Where the Big 12 is really going to fall behind is TV money, right? They're currently the only major conference, the only one of the Power 5 conferences that doesn't have its own TV deal. And I was saying, well, where's the ACC network, Lou? Never seen that. Well, it's coming soon, very soon. ESPN has signed a deal with the ACC, similar to what they did with the SEC. So the ACC is getting a network. Of course, you already have a Pac-12 network, a Big Ten network, and an SEC network. You do have the Longhorn network, which has long been a point of consternation. Since this is a Big 12 video, I can use words like that without having to worry about confusing Alabama or South Carolina fans. So yes, Texas has the Longhorn network, but it's never really taken off to the extent some of these other conference networks have. And with the ACC recently getting a network, the Big 12 is out in the cold. And the problem is, you're not going to be able to find a TV network willing to invest the money into the Big 12 to create its own TV network with the footprint that it currently has and only the 10 teams. Really, Oklahoma is the only thing, the state of Oklahoma is the only thing of value that the Big 12 would be adding in terms of TV markets. They're already in, the ESPN is already in Texas with the Longhorn Network and, of course, Texas A&M being in the SEC. And let's just be real, there are no other teams within the Big 12 that anyone really cares about. West Virginia, is near Virginia, so you've got the ACC there. Anyway, the point is, no TV network is investing in the Big 12 as it currently consists of the 10 teams that are currently there. It's just not going to happen. So any expansion that the Big 12 does at some point in the future, I think would be for revenue purposes in terms of a TV deal, not necessarily the argument I would have been making a couple of years ago, which is they don't have a conference championship game. They're not getting into the college football playoff. They need more teams. Well, they got the waiver from the NCAA. They're able to hold the college football or a conference championship now. And like I mentioned, they did get into the college football playoff this last year. Now, just for fun, and this is going to be Captain Obvious here, but if I don't mention this, or someone's going to say, well, which teams would it be, Lou? Well, the teams they already mentioned a couple of years ago when they had this same conversation about expanding the Big 12. BYU, that's just not going to happen, like I mentioned, for obvious reasons, mainly decency. South Florida, Central Florida. But that's a long way away from the existing Big 12 footprint. The Big 12 has already tried this once with West Virginia. Still up in the air how well that's working. I mean, you got teams got to travel a long way to play West Virginia every year. Not sure what sense it would make getting 2 additional teams in Florida. Now, yeah, everybody wants to be in the Florida market, but what really are you gaining with UCF or South Florida? I know UCF was undefeated last year, had a great year, but Scott Frost is gone. They're not duplicating that at Central Florida anytime soon. South Florida also had a pretty good year last year. I think their only loss was to Central Florida. They may have lost one more. But let's just be real. They're not going to, you put them in the Big 12, they're not competing with Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, West Virginia. They're just not. I'm sorry, you know, Central Florida fans, you can cry till the cows come home if you want. You put Central Florida, even last year's Central Florida team, in any of the 5 major conferences, they're a 500 team. They just are. Yeah, they beat Auburn with a month to prepare. I don't care what anybody says. You could put UCF against the 4 worst teams in each of the 5 major conferences, and if they had to play those 4 teams 4 straight weeks, they'd be lucky to go 2-2. It's just the reality of the situation. Put them up against Tennessee, Vandy, Arkansas, and Ole Miss, they'd be lucky to go 2-2 there if they had to play them 4 weeks in a row. So anyway, I don't know what benefit the Big 12 would get from signing those 2 teams. Cincinnati, you get into the Ohio market, which is great. In terms of the Midwest, that's probably one of the best places to recruit high school talent. A good TV market there too for the Big 12 to get into. So of course Cincinnati would be on the short list of teams looking to expand to Big 12. Outside of that, you really start grasping at straws. Houston, do you need another Texas team in a Power 5 conference? I mean, how many is enough? You got Texas, Texas A&M, Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech. How many really do you need? Throw Houston in there. And I can tell you right now, you're not going to get 8 Big 12 teams to vote another Texas team into the Big 12. You're just not going to do it. They already hate having to go into Texas and try to recruit against Texas for Texas high school talent. They're not it's not like they're in a hurry to go into Texas now and have to recruit against 2 Big 12 teams in Texas instead of 1. So the chances of 8 of the 10 approving any Texas school to join the Big 12 is slim to none. Anyway, that's it for today. Big 12 expansion. Let me know why I'm wrong. If you're a fan of a team in the Big 12, let me know what you think. Would you like to see? Forget what you think is or isn't going to happen. Just let me know what you would like to happen. Would you like to see the Big 12 expand to 12 or 14 teams? Are you happy with where it's at the 10 teams? If you want it to go to 12 or 14, let me know which 4 teams you would consider. Thanks for watching. If you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year. Thumbs this video up if you enjoyed it. If you didn't enjoy it, thumbs it down. I mean, who really cares if you're that type of person? If you're pissed off or feeling a certain type of way about anything Uncle Lou has educated you about today, that's what the comment section is for. Please utilize it. It's like therapy. Have a good morning.